Hello, everyone. Again, I'm going to give it a couple minutes in case somebody else is going to join us. I'm excited to talk about our book. Hopefully you are too. I mean, that's why you're here. For the book club that I started doing, yes, we pick a book, read it, go through it, talk about it, but you don't have to get the book or read it to join in and hang out, because we also talk about a whole bunch of other witchy things. And if it's something you are interested to read, like we talk about the book and it's something you're interested to purchase and then read on your own, you can kind of do it this way, as like see it as a review, something that I share or something that others share in the chat and that sort of stuff. So again, as always, for YouTubers saying things, don't forget to like, subscribe, the whole shebang. And we have tons of magical fun here. Good morning, Alexa and Enricia and Christina. Happy you guys are here with me. I'm going to give it like another 6 minutes until 10:10 in case somebody else wants to join before I go into talking about things, and I'm excited. Hopefully everybody is having a good day and a good week. I apologize if my voice disappears. Hope it doesn't. Yeah. How is everyone's June going? I can't believe we're halfway through the year, and I honestly don't know what happened to the other 5 months. It disappeared. Like I have no idea what this. I don't even fully remember what happened in the past 5 months. Like yeah, whatever. I'm feeling better after my surgery. Thank you so much for asking. Appreciate it. Hopefully, I won't be as uncomfortable talking today as I was in the previous video. If you missed the first part of us talking about this book, I'm going to try to link that up at the top when I'm done with the video for like the first portion of the book, if it lets me do that, because sometimes it ends up being weird in like the editing software in YouTube when it comes to live. So yeah, I will try to do that. But while you are here, I can just pop the link into the chat if you missed the first portion of the book. And also on my website, I created a tab for the book clubs that we are doing and a little bit of an overview of what we talked about during the live chats. Okay, that is the first portion for this book. A calm week is a good week. I hope it continues. Yeah, the year definitely went by faster than I wanted it to. All right, one more thing in regards to this. I'm going to plop in what we're reading and talking about today, and a link if anybody wants to purchase it from Amazon. You can always get it from the library or from a different bookstore, whatever works for you. In order for me to share it easiest with people, I just drop an Amazon link, that sort of stuff. Okay, so and then just want Wish. Yeah, the year, I don't know how fast like the end of the year will come. Because I swear I'm gonna go to bed today and wake up and it's going to be like December or something. So it's crazy. Okay. And we'll see how much we get through the book today, because during the last live, we went through 3 chapters and that took almost an hour to do so, because there's like a lot of interesting points in this that I wanted to talk about, and people ask questions and that sort of stuff. And obviously we're going to be talking about like the rest of the book. So I'm not entirely sure we'll be able to get through. I mean, I could pick and choose different tabs, but there's some tabs I want to talk about. That's why I made tabs. And if people ask questions and that sort of thing. So I'm going to leave an option at the end of this live stream, or like maybe towards the middle end, like 45 minutes in, if you guys want to do a third part for this book, if we don't get to go through everything that we want to go through, and vote on the next book we're going to read after it. I mean, we're going to be voting on the next book we're going to read after this live stream anyways, or at the end of this live stream anyways. So stick around towards the end. But we'll see if we want to do like a third part for this book. I don't know. It all depends on how you guys feel about it. Summer can't last long enough. I agree. I love like late spring. Like that is one of my favorite times of the year. And early fall. That is the most favorite time of the year, especially I live in Massachusetts. So the leaves change colors and it's all beautiful and vibrant and so many oranges and reds, and the weather is just perfect. So yeah, I want fall to last forever. But the summers in Massachusetts are brutal at times, especially with the humidity. I would say about half the summer is like you don't want to go outside at all. Unless you can tolerate heat well. I can't really tolerate heat well. Hi, Strome. Nice for you to join. Somerville. What is NA? What state is that? Nebraska? Fall forever would be amazing. Yes, 100% agree. Okay, so we are talking about The Crooked Path, and this is by Keldon. An introduction to traditional witchcraft. And yeah, this is the continuation because we talked about it in the first portion of this. Good morning, Lightfoot. Glad for you to join us. Does anybody want to share or say anything about the book before I continue going through all the little points and all the little markers that I have here? So if somebody wants to share like an insight, or they like it, if they dislike it, like, right away, what is your overall impression? Or if you didn't finish the book, that's okay too. I'm going to give that a couple minutes while I find the first part I want to talk about. I need a bookmark. That's completely understandable. Real life comes first before reading the books. Great tool when you started it back in the... You're so much more experienced than I. I am honored for you to be here, Christina. All right, so Alexa hasn't fully finished the book. I honestly haven't fully finished the book either, but I got a good portion of it in, and Christina haven't finished it fully yet. So would you guys be interested in having like a third meeting for this to finish talking about the book? Give you guys a little bit more time to read it? Okay, I'm gonna put that in as a poll. Okay, I made it the tab. I'd like to have a third meeting for this book. Yes or no? All right, I'm gonna plop that up there. That's going to stay up there. And yeah, that's going to stay up there for as we talk, as people join in, come in and out, and that sort of thing. Another thing with these lives, they're saved and put into my YouTube channel for you to review and go back to and that sort of thing. I really need to kind of be a little bit better with organizing things and like reference to the live chats, because they're about an hour, a little bit over an hour that we talk and hang out, and kind of like do timestamps, maybe for like the chapters that we talk or like the topics that we bring up or that sort of thing. But yeah, I should definitely be better with that. So it'll make it easier for you guys to review and go back to it. Okay. Thank you, Soul for Stories. I'm glad to have you join. I'm going to see if I missed any names, saying hello and welcome to all of you guys. As I'm honored that you come and hang out with me and spend your time with me. It's great. All right, so people are enjoying the book, which is great. I definitely am enjoying the book as well. There are a lot of things that I never heard of before, and there was a couple stuff that we talked about like last video about it that was like definitely brand new to me, which is super cool. One of the things that I really enjoyed reading was in regards to the tools that he talked about and explained for his practice. And those I kind of knew about, but there's like an addition to it, as well as the 3 rituals that he talked about, which is really cool. And then towards like middle-ish part of the book, there was like a very interesting kind of like drop of a how do I put it, of like a deity, which I didn't exactly expect, but I understand his reasoning for talking about that. So we'll continue with it all. Okay. If you do have the book, I am on chapter 3, page 34. And he talks about the magical process, and there's just like a list that he puts in there that I really like, and I definitely agree with him and how it makes sense in what the magical process is and how to work with magic and work with the spiritual realm and that sort of thing, or just work with the energies in general, spellcraft, rituals, etc., etc. So it is determining your magical intention, visualizing your magical intention, raising or channeling the necessary magical power, and projecting your combined intent and power. So Everything revolves around your intention and what you wish to achieve with the magic that you're going to be doing or practicing or putting out into the world, that sort of stuff. And I do talk a lot about that during like other discussions that we've had in other lives and videos and whatnot. Your intention is the number one thing in magic. If you don't have a clear, direct intention of what you wish to achieve, it's not exactly going to be achievable, or it's not exactly going to flow with the energies or that sort of stuff. And I think this is where we ended up at the last part, in regards to like where we ended. So I think this was the last topic that we talked about that was part of this book. But I do want to emphasize in regards to being very precise and intent of what, and very precise and intentional of what you wish to manifest or what spell you want to do, that sort of thing, because that is very, very important. And an example I provided from the last talk was doing a spell that you want to make more money or get more money or accumulate wealth and that sort of thing. And if you don't like give it an amount or how you want to accumulate the wealth or whatever, like for example, if you want a raise at work, better thing to do is kind of talk about how much of a raise you want. Like give it a ballpark figure, not like an exact. You could give it an exact number amount, but know that it could be like kind of around it, that sort of thing. But if you just say, I want more money, you could be walking down the street and find a quarter on the ground and you got more money, you are 25 cents richer. It's not what you intended exactly for it to happen, but that's the result of your manifestation because you weren't exactly clear of like how much money you wanted to accumulate, if that sort of makes sense. So and at that point, because it's like a full result of, like you say you want to make more money, you got more money, and that kind of ends the spell or the working of the magic right there, that sort of stuff. Let's see. Thank you for the compliments, guys. Appreciate it. The way he breaks everything down is such a lot. I love his breakdowns of the compass round. Yes, I love the organization of the book, how it's in chapters, in sections, and then if he has exercises, that sort of stuff, that they're like divided by the line. So it makes it really easy to go back to it and reference it if that's something that you do with books and that sort of thing, which is, this book is definitely something I'm going to end up doing with. He breaks things down into parts, and then each of those parts are in chapters. And then within those chapters, if he like talks about a different topic, like an exercise or a recipe or a spell, that sort of thing, or what is it called from the, what, I think it's from the Black Book that he, from the Spirits of Lore, and there's also, those are the different sections that he talks about. I'm trying to see, I think it's from the Black Book. All right, I knew it was somewhere here. All right, from the Black Book, where he gives recipes or like spell ingredients or that sort of thing. So I, as someone who has like a bit of a perfectionist complex and ADHD, that sort of stuff, it really makes it easier for me to go back to it and really see what, like to reference it back. Yeah, I just circled around the exact same thing that I said, and I said it multiple times, but that's what I mean. Another thing, when he does do exercises or things for you to try, like a spell or whatnot, I do like how he provides a purpose location, time, and tools that you need. And the fact that he provides a purpose like really helps you get into the mindset of it and to really be intentional of like why you are trying that exercise out, that sort of stuff. I have not tried any of his exercises yet, but I did like mark a couple that I would like to try. Either it's because it wasn't fully aligned with the moon cycle or whatever the case is, or just because I didn't exactly have time. And I was recovering from surgery, so that's going to be my excuse for everything for like maybe another week until my stitches fully heal or like heal well enough. Hi, Mary. Glad to have you be here. Okay. Great book to have as a tool. Yes. The breakdown for the compass round, I loved it. I use a circle or like a protection circle when I do more elaborate rituals. And if you've ever been part of like my live rituals that I do during like the full moon or new moon, most of the times I do lay a circle and that sort of stuff, kind of like the compass round, but definitely not as detailed as he proposed in the book. And I honestly wasn't exactly aware of like the full, how do I put it? Give me a second to find the word. Complexity? Not exactly complexity for it. Maybe complexity is a good one. The full ritual for it? I don't want to say the full ritual for it because that's a different talk. I think complexity is a good word. Or like the full intention. So I have never, how do I put it? Never practiced the compass round that he talks about here. And we'll get to this part in the book. And I'll talk a little bit more about it. But yeah, I definitely loved his breakdown of the compass round and like meaning for it and information on it and how to do it and that sort of stuff. So that was great. He provides, for the things he talks about, just enough information to really get you like a good base for the exercise or the information or the history or the tools that he talks about. So he gives enough information to like start off a good foundation and give you a good understanding as to why it's part of traditional witchcraft. But it doesn't overwhelm you with all of like the fine and minute details that comes with like the information and that sort of stuff with it. So his writing or the explanation of it, or maybe it's Gemma, Gary Forward, that helped kind of like organize this. I'm not entirely sure what the dynamic of like creating this book was. So he gives just enough information to make a good foundation on this stuff, but not enough to overwhelm you and enough to kind of get you curious to like learn more about it if it's a topic you want to explore further. Another thing I love is that he does footnotes of where he gets some of this information or where he's sharing a quote from and whatnot. And I've already kind of like marked down a couple books that I want to read from what he suggests. I don't know if any of you have kind of done that or seen like which of these books interest you to read, but if you have, that could become an option for our book club, depending on the accessibility of getting the book, because I'm sure some of these are like older texts and might not be easily or readily available. And yeah, we can kind of talk about that afterwards. All right, so in regards to the tools, so he talks about I'm on chapter 4, the traditional witch's tools. All right, I'm gonna read a couple comments here. Hi TJ, I'm glad you could make it. It's fine, you're not late, you were right on time, exactly when you needed to be here. Part 3, and it's so great. Good. I've read some of them, but there are some I've never heard of. Ooh, are there any that you would recommend? You don't have to like write it down now unless you have them like off the top of my head. You could like send them to me afterwards. Or I don't know if you're on my Instagram or anything like that. Okay, so the traditional witches' tools, and the ones he mentions are the stang, the cauldron, the broomstick, the knife, the cup, the dish, candles and incense, natural items, and the altar. So, yeah, so those are like the main tools that he talks about. And if the tools, you're able to kind of make them yourself, for example, the broomstick, that could be made on your own, or the stang, that could be like made on your own. He gives you information and like an exercise of how to create it yourself and kind of like the spell and thing that goes for it. And he also provides a hallowing ritual after the information and the tools. And a hallowing ritual is to kind of like bless the tools, give them an intention, and kind of help them connect with you. And then he like provides incense, a recipe for incense. So that's pretty cool. I like how he did that. I also like his mention of buying versus making tools. In regards to witchcraft or spiritual or pagan practice, everything is based on intention, how I mentioned a few minutes ago. And working with tools, you have to resonate with them and connect with them in order for them to be the most useful to you, or the most potent with energy, or the most like successful in their intent for what you want to do. It's good to take a moment to meditate with them, to be very cautious and careful of what tools you pick and why you pick them. And the easiest way to connect with a tool is to make it yourself. I'm a crafty person. I have some DIY videos and like thrift flips and things like that that I put up on my channel, where I make more witchy tools out of like thrifted items. So if you're able to do that, I would highly, highly recommend. If you're not able to do that, take time to get to know that tool. Take time for you to pick one out or purchase one if you can't, and that sort of stuff. So I don't use all of the tools that he talks about. For example, the stang, that is not something that I incorporated into my practice, but I am really curious to do so. Might have to be like a much later project for me to do, for reasons I will disclose later. Not later today, but like maybe a month from now or things like that. But I definitely like the way he talks about it, and then the way he talks about making it. So he provides information about like a paintbrush to paint like magical symbols on it, or things that you resonate with, or use like a wood burner or a carver, that sort of stuff. Same thing for the stang and the broomstick. I also want to add that you can add different beads or charms or crystals or anything else that would help you connect with the tool. That sort of stuff. Let's see. So in regards to the cauldron, so I'm going to share a little bit of like how I use the tools. I do use a cauldron, but not fully in the way he kind of talks about. I have a small cauldron that I would like burn incense in and that sort of stuff. But overall, if I want to make like like a simmer pot or something in regards to a tea or like a potion, that sort of stuff, I would just use the kitchen pot, which is fine. Being a witch, be resourceful and use what you have at hand. Having a specifically intended tool for a specific person is great, but you don't need to. You could just find stuff in your kitchen, which I do a lot of the times. Kitchen pots are the best cauldrons. Yes. You can Instagram me. Yeah, that would be great. I would appreciate that. Have I ever made a witch's ball? All right, I need to remember what the witch's ball is. Probably not, since I can't fully define what that is. But I most likely made something similar to it. I'm gonna need to look it up. What is it? That's not coming to my mind right now. Is it like a protection thing? There are sometimes names that get put towards the tools that. Okay, a witch's ball is a protection charm to ward off evil spirits. So I have not done a hollow sphere of glass of what a witch's ball is, but I have done plenty of protection tools, wards, and that sort of thing for my home, for myself, and for those that I care about, that sort of stuff. So I have made protection charms, but not in the ball form that you're talking about. So, yes, he says to you. So, it's not a witch's ball that he talks about using urine in. That is the witch's bottle. And I found that very interesting. I understand the concept behind it, but in regards to more of like there are plenty of other ways that you can make a protection charm or like a entrapment of energy or like a hex, that sort of thing, without the incorporation of your urine, your pee, that sort of stuff. So there's tons of different ways, and whatever you resonate with, like that. I don't think that is something that I want to do. That is not something that I have done, but I have done like energy entrapments bottles or spell bottles in general, not for like the intent that he does. And like I said, the witch's ball as a protection charm, I have done protection charms as well. I believe the spell bottle is now more viewed as to use for any spell, not exactly like hexing or protection, how he talks about here. So he talks about it in a more traditional sense, not what it's kind of have been modernized to do. So you can do a spell bottle for any kind of intention. It's just to help keep the energies in place of what you want to use. So could be for creativity, could be for protection, it could be for fortune or love or whatever the case is. It does not have to be what he describes it to be, if that makes sense. Says I have heard vinegar instead. It's not for me. Vinegar instead kind of makes more sense, but there's definitely plenty of variations of how you can work with it. In regards to the broomstick, a thing that I haven't heard of it being used for, like he talks about like the brief history of flying on the broomstick or whatever that was brought up in like in Hollywood, witches fly in the broom. but I've used a broom. I don't have like a fancy broom that's specifically for this intention. I used a broom to do like cleansing, spiritual, and both physical. And honestly, I use a vacuum cleaner for the same exact intent, because you can clean it physically and spiritually and that sort of stuff. So there's a little funny story. My mother would joke about me riding on a broom or whatever the case is when she wants to like poke a jab at me being a witch or a practitioner or whatever. And I would always joke back to her, I'm just like, "Oh, using a broom is so old school. I prefer a vacuum. They're faster." So they fly faster. So that's like my little joke back to her. He does talk about the broom also being a form of tool as spirit or otherworldly travels. And that's not something I've really heard of people using it for, or particularly being pertained to a broom. So now I kind of see where the connection is of witches flying on a broom or like moving with a broom. But it's interesting how he talks about it being traveled between like the spirit realm and our realm. And that's not something I heard about. So there's that. I'm glad you find my joke funny. Let's see. Then he gives an exercise of how to create a broomstick, and he talks about like tying it or using a cord and that sort of stuff. And another thing I want to point out, you can incorporate not magic, KNOT magic, when you make tools that refer to using a cord or whatever, or just work with not magic in general. Broom for cleansing rituals. Yeah, that's what I normally have experienced with it and heard people using it for. So the fact that it was he talked about like traveling through the spirit realm using a broom was interesting. The next tool was the knife in regards to traditional witches, which I liked how he has like an all-purpose knife for both using the spiritual sense and the physical sense, and how he talks about should be a sharp knife for you to work with it and that sort of thing. And it's a little bit different from a Wiccan perspective, that sort of stuff, where they kind of separate the knives into a knife that's used for spiritual intent and a knife that's used for physical intent, that sort of thing, which I'm not entirely sure I would like to use, like an all-purpose knife, that sort of thing. Like, I get it, it's easy, absolutely, and it works. There's no reason to like separate the two, but in my mind, it kind of makes sense to separate a spiritual knife or ritualistic knife called an athame, and having a knife for like the physical sense of cutting and that sort of stuff. I have a question for. Actually, I'm going to ask that afterwards. I'm going to ask the tools question afterwards. Then moving on to the cup, of how he talks about like the cup and information of it and that sort of thing. And I like how he put it in. How do I put it? How he talks about the cups that he has. It says he has two cups that he alternates between, which are both ceramic. One is a chalice and intricate and that sort of thing, and the other is a modest coffee mug. So I love how he inputs the information in regards to it doesn't have to be something like super fancy or super aesthetic. And none of this stuff needs to be super fancy or super aesthetic. It just needs to be useful for you and your purpose, and you need to be able to connect and resonate with it. Like, that's the most important part. And as long as you like it, that's all that matters. It doesn't need to be like this perfect Pinterest, like picturesque aesthetic thing. Although it is kind of nice. Let's see. Use a regular paring knife. Keep it for spiritual practice only. Nice. I think there was a live video where I talked about specifically athame versus bowline, and I shared some of the athames that I have, that sort of stuff. All right, next up is the dish that he talks about, and it's a tool used for charging and hollowing other objects, as well as holding like spell materials and that sort of stuff. I like his explanation for it, and that he includes it into a tools portion, that sort of thing. But it also doesn't exactly have to be a dish. It can be a placemat, or it could be like an altar cloth, I would say, that could also be used as like charging an object or hollowing an object, that sort of stuff. So it doesn't exactly have to be like a plate, although it could be. It is useful to use a plate or a vessel of some sort if you're working with loose ingredients, or if you want to like put different things in it or whatnot. But I also wanted to point out that it does not exactly have to be a plate or a bowl. It could be an altar cloth or just a sacred space that you made for something specific. Then he talks about candles and incense. It's relatively self-explanatory. Then he talks about natural items such as plants, crystals, things from the animal kingdom, that sort of stuff. And finally, he talks about the altar and creating a sacred space for you to work with. I also like how he says that it doesn't exactly have to be anything intricate. It just has to be something that works for you. It could be a permanent placement, or it could be like a temporary thing, whatever works for you. And I really like how he emphasizes of whatever works for you, because your pagan path, your spiritual practice is unique to you, same way as your fingerprint is. Right, so that was chapter 4. Fancy chalice with a raven on it, and also have a wine glass I bought. Nice. I have a fancy green onyx chalice that I use like for super specific purposes, or I would just use a coffee mug. And if I'm working with like spirits or entities or that sort of thing, and I'm inviting someone specific into my circle, I have a set of like 2 teacups that I think are super pretty, and I would like have one as an offering for the spirit or the entity that I want to work with, and like one for myself, and just spend time with that entity, sipping tea, and see what kind of enlightenment they can provide me. If they do. It doesn't always happen. Sometimes they're quiet. All right, so I am now on chapter 5, the rituals of traditional witchcraft. Right, does anybody want to... Oh, the question that I was going to ask. And some of you have already answered it in regards to like athame and ritual tools. Are there tools that you always use and incorporate in your practice? Something that you like super resonate with? And are there tools that you don't find a need for, I would say, or something that you don't use in your practice? So, yeah. Use a shot glass that you give wine to Hecate. Nice. All right, so that's my question for you in regards to the tools. For me, tools that I pretty much always use in regards to like my spiritual practice would be candles, different sizes, different colors, that sort of stuff. If I'm doing more of an elaborate ritual, then I would be using a knife or like the athame, as well as the cup. And in regards to the broomstick, I kind of talked about how I use a regular broom as a cleansing and consecrating space, or a vacuum cleaner, cleansing and consecrating for my space. So those are the tools that I tend to incorporate. As well as the plate. I'm going to go through it. The plate, the cauldron, candles and incense, cup, dish, and natural items. I love working with crystals and herbs. Herbs was like my first study. So if anybody wants to plop in what tools they use frequently, a wand would suffice. Yes. Incense, crystals, and herbs, mostly natural things. Nice. Stones, herbs, candles, usually incense, something at altar representing all the elements. Oh, yes. I always invoke all of the elements when I do any sort of like spell or practice or that sort of stuff. Use about the same as me. Cool. That's nice. I love hearing perspectives and that sort of thing. Is there a tool that you use that was not mentioned here? As Christina mentioned, a wand works very similar to a stang. It's just a smaller version of it, more compact. That sort of thing. You invoke land, sea, and air only. That's interesting. Only I've never heard of somebody just using like 3 of the elements, but that is really interesting. Thank you for sharing, Alexa. Is there a reason you omit fire? And you don't have to like explain or talk about it or anything like that. Just leave it as it is. I'm just curious to find out. Yeah. So I will move on to the rituals and tradition of witchcraft in chapter 5. He talks about simple ecstatic rituals as being more of like the traditional witches or witchcraft type of portion. He doesn't really mention that you yourself is the most important tool. Yes, thank you so much for bringing that up, Christina. Your intent, you as a person, and your own energy, and your own everything is the most important and vital tool of any of these. And you yourself can replace the the knife using in a spiritual sense, the sting or the wand, that sort of stuff, or even like the broom. There's a lot of things that your own energy can replace of these tools that you don't like really need to use. Yeah, okay. I think I said that okay. You use candles, do not invoke the Wiccan tradition elements, very Celtic. Cool. Yeah, you are the best tool you need. Absolutely. The most important tool. So keep yourself healthy. That is the vital part to be a very useful tool. Keep yourself healthy, grounded, and have good peace of mind. Yeah. Okay. Then he talks about when it comes to magic, if you don't resonate with the ritual on a deep level, then you end up merely going through the motions and the whole process falls flat. So this is when he starts talking about following specific rituals or creating your own rituals and that sort of thing. And he also mentions like don't be afraid to break free from the mold and adapt material to align with your personal style at whatever point you feel ready. So just because there is a fully written ritual or explanation or that sort of thing on something that you want to do or like use as an intention, that doesn't mean you can't alter it to use it for your best benefit, if that makes sense. And I personally like to write my own rituals and write my own spells. I feel much more connected with it and much more like at peace with it, and knowing that my intention is heard clearly, and definitely knowing that a ritual or a spell was not written with a hidden like malice or a negative intention like underneath. Like it could be written like you could see the information on it, but because that ritual was written by a specific person, and I mean like directly by a specific person, I don't mean a spell or ritual that's been passed down over time and like changed and altered. Feel like that energy is a little different. But if you're using a ritual or a spell directly written by one specific person, that person's energy is attached to that spell or ritual. At least, like in my beliefs, that's at least what I'm sensing. If if that makes sense. So I really like to break away from that, create the disconnect from the individual that wrote that spell, and create something of my own that would be more connected to me and my own personal energy. Um, Never found spells written by others to be as effective as spells I write myself. Great explanation. It goes back to making your own tools, and it's just a much better way to connect with it. And making your own spell doesn't have to be something like super rigid or super that you like plan out completely, like down to the finest detail, of like what candle color you want to use. You want to do this at a specific time for this. I mean, you can go for it. There's some more like complex spells that I've done that kind of gone along that path, but creating your own spells has to come from within you, and that's what would make it most effective. It doesn't have to rhyme, it doesn't have to be aesthetic. You don't have to use all of the tools or crystals or whatever with similar correspondences. Your intent is the most important portion of that spell. Um, Good for reference. So the spells can be good for references, but I always ultimate create my own. Yes, great explanation. Thank you for sharing. Um, okay, I do like the little quote that he wrote, and that kind of touches about how it doesn't exactly have to be a super like detailed or complex spell slash ritual. And he goes, but truly, as long as you feel connected to a ritual, it doesn't matter if it entails an hour of complicated ritual or simply singing to the genius loci while dancing naked around a pine tree. And that just kind of made me giggle a little. Um, okay. All right. We're in agreement with the spells. Perfect. um, a thing that I absolutely loved that he talked about in regards to the compass round and invoking the elements or like the four elements, that sort of stuff, is how he breaks away from the traditional sense of things that I'm used to doing in regards to casting my own circle. I believe my circle casting is more in reference towards like the Wiccan religion. At least that's how I learned it. I slightly adapted it to something that resonates with me a little bit more, but I use more so of like the traditional elements towards the specific compass points, like west being water, um, north being, wow, why can't I think of the, I am completely blanking on the other elements. East air, south fire, north earth. Okay, I think I I think that's right because I'm totally damn blanking on it. Wow. Okay. I love how he talks about how he sets the compass points. And he talks about in order for this to be effective, the elements need to be assigned to directions that make sense in your given landscape. Um, and he talks about how he uses air for north because it is from this direction that the strongest winds blow. Earth is placed in the south, as this is where my favorite expanse of woods is located. Fire is assigned to the east due to the rising sun, while water is placed in the west, where a large body of water can be found. So I love that, how he breaks it down more into his sense of what makes sense for him and his practice versus going from a like a traditional Wiccan approach of the specific elements. Okay, I got it. Yay! I'm glad I totally blinked on it. That sort of stuff. So I really enjoyed how he talked about it making like even more personal to yourself. And I feel like that is something I'm going to incorporate into the circles I cast. So I really like that. That definitely makes more sense of like to resonate with it and to like really feel more connected with it. So I love it. Then he talks about the compass round and layering it, doing the 3 circles and how they represent different things. The first outer layer being life, the second layer being death, and then the closest inner layer being the afterlife, or the other world, sorry. And from my practice, the 3 going around the circle thrice was more for solidifying the circle and like creating a protection for it. I didn't exactly experience doing it with like the 3 different layers, so this will definitely be a fun experience for me to try, fun exercise for me to try. And I was going to say something else about it. And he talks about what to use for the different layers of the circle, like salt for circle 1, ash, and then wine, and how instead of how I traditionally do it, I walk on the inside of the circle so that the circle, or like the wall, the veil, is going to be on the outside of me. But through this exercise, you make the circle while you're standing outside of it, and then you cross over the boundary of the circle, like into the like either you're like passing through the life into like this or that sort of thing, which was definitely interesting. I like that. It's definitely not something I have practiced or experienced before. So yeah. Okay, I'm looking for other things to talk about. Then the other exercise he talks about is treading the mill to build up your personal magical power, and it involves pacing or treading about the compass round while maintaining a fixed gaze on a central point or reference. And I like the explanation he gives. I also, where is it? I did not underline it. Why did I not underline it? He talks about a specific like head position where you're tilted to the side and to the back, which I have done before. Okay, so when treading the mill, the witch moves forward with their head turned to the side and slightly cocked back, gazing steadily upon the central point. By walking with your head turned to the side and slightly tilted back, you effectively restrict some of the blood flow to your brain. When this is paired with the continuous focus upon a central point, it creates a hypnotic effect. So I like how he also incorporated kind of like the biological part of how your own like body and physiology connects with the spiritual practice of things. So where's my pencil? Because I want to underline this for later if I need it. So I really like how he talked about that. Okay. Only because of this book club did I start writing things in my book. But it makes sense now. Okay, So that was treading the mill ritual. And then he talks about the housel. And housel is a feast with different types of offerings for like different events, or inviting the spirits or thanking them and that sort of thing. So he just talks about like that portion and how it's usually done after like a big ritual is completed and that sort of stuff. So those are like the three main rituals that he talks about. Another funny thing is how often he uses the term traditional witch or traditional witchcraft or traditional witches. It is so repetitive throughout that I want to like count how many there are just for the fun of it. So yeah, that's like a part that I found funny and like a little bit annoying. That's just it. All right, so that was, we're about half of the book. What time is it? 11. Let's see if I have any other. So I'm on to chapter 6, Spellcraft. And this will be the last chapter I cover. Yeah, that will complete part 2. I like how he talks about high and low magic, how high magic is ceremonial, low magic is more grounded and earth-based, that sort of stuff. So it's, and especially that he talks about that it's not like divided or fully separated, like there's a mix between all of them. Traditional witchcraft too. That's exactly what I was thinking. I just did not want to say it on a live YouTube video. But yeah, yep, that that was exactly my thinking. Okay, so he then talks about, all right, hold on. All right, I like the quote from him that I'm going to read. It's not an uncommon experience for a witch to become overly concerned with what tools, ingredients, or words they believe are necessary for a working. While it's always a good idea to thoroughly think through and prepare for magical undertakings, if it's gotten to the point where you filled with anxiety over what color candle to use, or if your spell is written in perfect iambic pentameter, then you may want to slow down and take a couple of breaths. I did touch on this a little bit earlier, but I do love how he incorporated that into the book, how you need to kind of not fully overthink things and more follow your intuition. That's kind of like the take that I got from it. Then he has exercises for charm bag for luck. Another thing that I really like through this book, how he talks a little bit of some lore or stories in regards to some of these things, which I found very interesting. It's just kind of like a good breakup in between of reading and studying, sort of, and just kind of like listening to a story, which is pretty cool. So it talks about charm bags, the witch bottles, which we've touched on earlier, and he has an exercise for creating a protective witch bottle, which does incorporate urine and other fun things if that's something you want to practice, which I definitely found interesting. Talks about charm bags, already said that. Talks about the witch's ladders and knotted cords. I also mentioned a little bit of this in regards to working with not magic. Then he talks about puppets or puppets. And he even has an exercise of creating a puppet for hexing, which I really like the fact that he does not shy away from baneful magic to like healing and more light-based magic, that sort of stuff. So it's very interesting that not all books do that. And a lot of the time it's mostly of like love and light and healing, which we've definitely talked a lot about in the first like portion of this book, of this book club meeting, that sort of thing. So I really like that about this book, how he is honest and he's incorporating like all aspects of witchcraft and magic and that sort of thing. Oh, another thing, going back to making your own tools, I also really like the fact that he does not shy away from getting like a fresh branch, for example, making a broomstick or that sort of thing. A lot of the books that I've read or things that I've heard, it's like it has to be harvested after it fell or a storm or that sort of thing. Like you can't take something from a tree that's live and that sort of stuff. And that wasn't exactly something I followed through with. I definitely like start off something that has already like fallen from a tree or that sort of thing, but I don't restrict myself to it as long as I feel that the spirits or the energies of that area, of that tree or whatever, feel comfortable with sharing their magic or their tools for me to make them. So I also really like that he talks about it and doesn't kind of like make it a taboo or a bad thing for you to do. Okay, so that is that part. We talked about part 1 and part 2, and I see that for our voting, we are going to be doing a third meeting for this book. Yay! Good. There's so many like nice things to talk about it, so I love that. I love that you guys are on board with it. I also like it that I'm not the only one that didn't fully finish the book, so it makes me feel a little bit better about myself. All right, we're about, say, halfway done talking about this book, and then next time we'll definitely finish up so that we can move on to the other one. Do you want to vote on the next book that we're going to be reading after we finish this one so that you can prepare to get it or look into it or that sort of thing, or if someone has already like read the book or experienced it, wants to kind of not recommend it if we do vote on it. So I think that might be a good idea to vote on the book now to prepare for like the next thing to read. Let's see. We'd have alcohol poisoning if we did that. Yeah, definitely. It's like 3 times in a page at least. Which who cannot hex cannot heal. I agree. The history he mentioned, I think, are the best parts of the book. The way he does his breakdowns are very good for future reference. Yes, absolutely. All right, perfect. So voting on the book, that way everybody has time to find it. Okay, so I have prepared a couple options. One that I've recommended earlier that was part of like the voting process was the Kabbalah of Light, Ancient Practices to Ignite the Imagination and Illuminate the Soul. So I'm going to plop this one in. Let's hope that comes out relatively formatted. Okay. Ooh, nope. Too many characters. All right. I'm going to do that, and that. So that is for the first book. I have 4 this time. One of them I don't think a lot of people are going to be interested, but it's one of my favorites. I have read it, and it is called The Cosmic Serpent and DNA and the Origins of Knowledge. It is definitely one of my favorite books because it combines science with spirituality and the author's perspective on how we are like connected with the spiritual realm and that sort of thing ingrained in our DNA. So it's a bit of a science-y type of book if you are someone who's interested more in like that aspect. And that's definitely something I love doing in my practice, is combining like relatively known or proven theories, or like almost proven theories, when it comes to science and technology and research that's kind of more mainstream, into how it incorporates into witchcraft. And just like how the crossover is so fascinating to me. So it's a book that that I really enjoyed from like a sciencey perspective. So I'm gonna plop that there. Betwixt and Between by Storm Fairy Wolf. I'm going to write that down for another vote, another poll. By Storm Fairy Wolf. Okay. Then I have Backyard Witchcraft, which was recommended by one of you guys. Don't exactly remember who. I apologize for it. And it's called Backyard Witchcraft, a complete guide for the Green Witch, the Kitchen Witch, and the Head Witch. If you know me, I don't exactly love titles for witchcraft or practitioner, but it just kind of gives you the basic sense of the genre of it. So I'm plopping that information in. And then if I have 4 options, because like the sciencey book is not for everybody, and I just wanted to put it out there. The 4th option, while I was kind of like going through and like getting the links and information on these books, was Heal the Witch Wound and Reclaim Your Magic and Step into Your Power, which the title kind of grabbed my attention. This was not recommended by anyone. This was just like, you know how you search on Amazon and then there's like the recommendation list and that sort of stuff. So that's kind of like where I saw it, and the title kind of captured my attention. So these are the 4 books that I'm plopping in. And yeah, sounds great for shadow work. That's why the title kind of dragged me in. Okay, so I also put in information like approximately the price of the book on Amazon, so it'll be easier for you to reference or like make a choice. The page numbers of it, so that we know kind of what we're getting into, because of the previous book before this was just not ideal for a book club. and that sort of thing. So, and like a little bit of information in regards to if it was recommended to me or not. And of course, the link to Amazon if you just want to get it, regardless if we're going to be using it for a book club or not. So I am going to start a poll. Have that be up there for a little bit. I'm going to do like brief titles of it, because I put in most of the information as well. And yes, Christina, I agree. They are all hard choices, and it is so difficult to pick which book to read next because I just want to read every single one of them. And if that's all I could do for the rest of my life, I would love that. All right, so I am plopping in that poll. Letting you guys vote on it, see which one we're going to go with. And I'm going to leave that up for like 5-ish minutes. I know that people are coming in and out, and those who hang out with me towards the end of this are the ones that get to vote on the next books. You know, you get a little bit of a perk that way. Okay. So now I'm going to go through like the comments. Thank you, TJ, for that book recommendation. I will add it to like the next poll or next things we talk about. In regards to like the sciencey aspect, is it something like people are okay? There's people that voted on it, so I guess that answers my question. The Kabbalah of Light does have like the most amount of pages, like 352 pages compared to the other ones that are around like 200, 250. But the reason I believe it's like more pages because it has exercises for you to try. And if you're not going through all the exercises, it's going to be a shorter read by at least, I would say, like maybe 50 pages. I'm guesstimating. Let's see. Is there anything special I need to do to join the book club? Nope, not at all. Come and hang out. It's free. I do these every other Tuesday. At least I started doing these every other Tuesday. Our next meeting is going to be Tuesday, June 27th, roughly around the same time that this started. I do have more information on some things on my website, as well as like events coming up, and you can like directly add it to your Google Calendar or to a calendar that you use. I think it connects to a couple different ones. That way, like you don't have to put in a reminder. You could just like click on it and it like imports it right away, which I think is really cool. I love that. I also have like a book club tab on there where I do an overview of things we talked about, the book, the information on the book, that sort of things. That information. And let's see. As well as other more things on my website. There's lots of witchy goodies. I have a boutique. If I'm doing any live rituals for anyone to participate with, or reviews, or that sort of stuff, or sales in my boutique, sign up for the newsletter, that sort of thing. That also helps out the traffic to my page. That kind of thing. Ooh, speaking of events, I am having an Instagram story sale thing on my Instagram. Obviously, that's why it's Instagram story sale. This Friday on the 16th, like starting towards the evening, where I'm going to be posting things for sale that's like part of my artwork or things that I've like crafted or created, stationery things, that sort of stuff, and other things from subscription boxes that I've unboxed or went through that I didn't fully resonate with. So I want someone to have a home for them that is more interested in that item or that tool, that sort of thing. So yeah, follow me on Instagram, regardless if you're going to participate in the sale or not. You know, help a girl out with her social media things. And if you are interested checking out some of the stuff on there, definitely do so as well. Oh, and also like jewelry that I made, that sort of thing. So it's going to be a lot of stuff. Yeah, okay. Let's see. And the things that I will be sharing on there on like the Instagram sale is, where's the information? What do I have? Is going to be more like at a discounted price than what the retail value is, especially for the items that come from other subscription boxes. For example, the Witch's Moon or the Witch's Roots or the Witch's Bounty, that sort of thing, because they have their online shop as well. And if it's something that I don't resonate with, I want somebody else to find a home, and I like do a discounted price than what they would sell it for their retail value. Oh, there will also be giveaways during it, so come check it out. I'm gonna plop down my website, and where did it go? My website link and my Instagram link. Oh, no, why did it not copy? Okay, so that is the link to my website, where you can find a whole bunch of things on there, and link to my Instagram. Another thing, I only have one Instagram page, and this is it. There has been a situation where somebody was claiming to be me and impersonating me, which, I'm super flattered, but they were scamming people. So this is the only Instagram that I have. Okay. Let's see. So currently we're going for the, we're at 33% for the last 3 books: Cosmic Serpent, Backyard Witchcraft, and Heal the Witch Wound. We are totally at like a standstill right now. Oh boy, that's going to be interesting. All right, I'm going to read through some of your comments. Having fun deciding between the last 2. Andy, I'm glad you guys are enjoying the book club. Wish you could buy on the Instagram stories, delete Instagram for mental health. I completely understand that. That is, if that helps your mental health, absolutely. I am proud of you for doing that. Honestly, it's, being part of like the internet and all the socials and kind of like in the know or like fear of missing out, for you to be able to like disconnect completely for the socials that way. I'm proud of you. I'm glad you are prioritizing your mental health. Let's see. Your witching stationery unboxing videos are how I found you. Cool. And that's usually like how people find me. And then, I get to meet you guys and do book clubs and just hang out with you live and talk with you, which is kind of my favorite part about doing things on YouTube, is just like the personal aspect of this lovely witchy community and meeting all of you amazing people. Torn between the last 2. Okay, so the poll has been up for 8 minutes, and it is currently at an even amount between the Cosmic Serpent, Backyard Witchcraft, and Heal the Witch Wound. So we need a way to kind of break the tie. How can we do that? Following me for a couple of years. You're good. Roll a d4. I think I'm going to roll a d3 since the first one is not, nobody's picked on the first one. So it's between the last 3. All right. Let's do it. Yeah, 6 votes, 9 people watching. Because, I do this at the end, so you guys get to be, I'm not going to be redoing this poll. We're going to figure this out today. Okay, Google, pick a number between 1 and 3. Did you guys hear that? It said 1. So does that work? Your Google said 1 also? Perfect. All right. So the first book it is. That's so funny that your Google responded too. That's great. That is great. All right. So we are going to be reading The Cosmic Serpent. And because we do this every 2 weeks, that's great. That kind of made my day. Because we do this every 2 weeks, and I'm going to have a page up for this book already. If you're not interested or you find the book like not very book club friendly, as one of them already has been, we can like take a vote and that sort of thing on how do I put it, if we want to continue with the book or not. So this is what we're... Oh, someone said backyard witchcraft. You know what? Too late. We're going with this. My Google said it. Christina's Google said it. So we're at it. It has been decided. And like I said, I'm going to have a tab open of it on my website. And if you absolutely hate it, if you get the book or whatever, or look at the reviews for it, we can move on to the next one. So, yeah. All right. Anything else, guys? This was fun. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for joining and coming and hanging out with me for an hour and a half. Appreciate it. That was a very last minute vote. The next to next. So, all right, you mean Backyard Witchcraft and Heal Thee Witch Wound? Maybe. I'm definitely going to be repeating those 2 books on the next poll. But if we have other people joining, I mean, you guys are like the original members, and I love you for it. But if we have other people joining and we redo the vote, I think that's only going to be fair, that sort of thing. So those 2 books will be part of it, and I'm going to add the betwixt and between for the poll, and we can go through it one more time. Is that okay? Does that make sense? Like my reasoning for it, my explanation for it. I'm glad you guys are having fun. As well as I said, like at the beginning of this, if anybody's like just watching this portion of it towards the end, you don't have to read the book to come and hang out with us. It's just an overall witchy topic in general, or like witchy things in general, because I think any part of the book can be pertained to a practitioner's life in regardless of which way. And it's fun to talk about things. And it could be like a review if you do want to purchase that book and read it for yourself and that sort of stuff. Kind of have it as a like a preview or a review type of thing. So you don't have to read or buy the book to join or participate, although that would help you engage a little bit more. But it's completely up to you. It'll just be nice to hang out. All right. You guys agree with my mindset? Perfect. And with that, I will see you guys on the next video. Love you all. Thank you for joining and hanging out. Have a wonderful Tuesday, and I will see you in 2 weeks.